Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy from Magoo Investing. Welcome back. In today's episode of Robinhood Top Stocks, we're going to be talking about Plug Power, ticker symbol PLUG. This is actually a requested video from one of the subscribers, so if you'd like me to go over maybe a company you've been watching, maybe a company that you've been holding for a while and you're not sure what to do with, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll go over it as soon as I can. Also, before we get started, I really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, as it would help my channel out a lot. So Plug Power is an energy company out of the US, and they mainly focus on hydrogen fuel cells, so kind of a better version of fossil fuels and just kind of energy overall. So I kind of like it for that. But the reason we're talking about it today is it's been around since the early 2000s, and it's kind of been a roller coaster since it's been out. Just looking at the charts recently, I was like, oh wow, they're up almost 140% year to date. That's crazy. I wonder what else they've done. And seeing the fact that it's at $3 kind of was a red flag if it's been doing so well in the past year. And the further back you go, the crazier it looks. I'll kind of show you when we go onto the computer a little bit later, but the all-time chart is just ridiculous on how far it's fallen. It's gone through a 10-to-1 reverse stock split, or a 1-to-10. So the stock has fallen pretty hard, and they had to buy back some of their shares and then push the price up because it was falling too low to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So you've had some problems in the past, but the 150% year to date looks pretty attractive. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about what I see for a long or short-term potential play with Plug, and then kind of talk about some really interesting things, what the company said going forward. I believe one of the really interesting things that kind of piqued my interest when I was doing research for this video was that the CEO thinks that they'll be doing $1 billion in revenue, or in annual revenue, by the year 2024. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit, and kind of I'll explain why I think that's kind of over-exaggerated on what they're actually going to be able to do. So with a stock that's sitting at about $3, and since it's one of the most popular stocks in Robinhood with around 144,000 people owning it, it makes sense. When I first started doing the Robinhood Top Stocks kind of series, I was kind of confused why some of these stocks like Chesapeake Energy, GoPro were so popular. And then someone reminded me the fact that when you sign up with someone else's referral link, you get a free stock, and they do as well. And they kind of tease you, say, oh, you can get Apple or Berkshire Hathaway, which, never happens. You get something really small. I think I got Groupon the first time, and it appears like a lot of people are getting Plug Power as their free stock. And it would make sense why so many people are holding the stock. But when we talked about Chesapeake Energy, I did not have a lot of good things to say about it, but Plug Power has an 88% buy rating on Robinhood, so it's pretty interesting overall. And so in recent news, the thing to talk about is the stock was up, I think 50% just in the month of November. And then the company announced that they would be having a second offering on shares. And when that happens, they're selling it at a discounted rate, and it pushes the stock price down. So it's fallen since its highs in November, but it's got some really interesting price movement relating to its moving averages. So we'll talk about that in a little bit on the charts, but there's just a lot of different things going on in the stock that kind of piques my interest, but then the fact that it's also super volatile kind of scares me a little bit going forward. Now let's talk about the news story that kind of caught people's attention when the CEO said that he expects the company to have $1 billion in revenue by the year 2024. And so I thought there for a second, and there was just a bunch of data points on how their revenue's been over the past, and I thought, you know what, I have a college degree, let's just chart this on Excel. So that's what I did. So this first chart that I'm going to throw up right here is the revenue charted since 2005. And as you can see, things look pretty steady. It's been moving up, and I think the recent high was in the $130 million range. So that's pretty solid based off of what they've done in the past 15 years or so. But when you see that we're almost at 2020 and their price, or the revenue target, was $1 billion by 2024, I'm just going to kind of change the axis now, or the y-axis, and put $1 billion on there, which is $1,000 million. So we'll put that up there, and you can see how realistic this target looks, and it's not realistic at all. I think based off of what they've done in the past, it's kind of like technical analysis. This kind of projecting how they're going to do in the future is looking to see what they've done in the past and kind of trying to extrapolate it to see how far out you can project. So you can use the Microsoft Excel to give you an equation that you can use to put in values to kind of see what the predicted time it would take to get to a certain value. And getting to $1 billion is not realistic. I didn't even finish doing the math after I saw how large the number was. I just thought, you know what? So unless something drastic changes in the company overall, I don't think that $1 billion is very realistic. And with that being said, let's hop on the computer and talk about Plug Power's chart. The fundamentals is part of it, but mainly what I like doing is technical analysis. So let's hop on over to TD Ameritrade, and I'll talk about what I see on the charts. I almost forgot. Before we get in there, I got to say that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, so I'd highly recommend talking to a professional, someone that can find you the best places to put your money going forward. And now let's go to the charts. So here we are looking at Plug Power on Robinhood. As you can see, the 88% buy rating is kind of what popped out to me in the first place. The 144,000 kind of makes sense based off of the free stock that people get when they sign up. And it's currently sitting at around $3.05. So it's pretty low. I've talked about on this channel before how I don't really like taking positions in stocks where the stock price is under $10. But obviously there's exceptions to that. That's just kind of my overall kind of mindset. So as you can see, it's down almost 12% in the week, up 6% in the month, 21% in the 3 month, and 90% in the year. And then I think it's like 140% if you go year to date. And then 5 years is only down 14%. So it doesn't look that bad. But 5 years doesn't really tell the whole story of Plug Power. It's a stock that's been around for a long time. When I first went on here, I have it just kind of default set to the 4-hour 180 day, which is my favorite chart. And I looked at this and I was like, oh man, like I kind of see why people are so bullish overall with Plug. You can see it's had some nice support areas. It's come down here. It's retested this at the 50-day moving average. Things look pretty good. When you go back to the max one day, it starts to look more horizontal, not as nice. This goes back to 2016, and as we go back, October 2014, it was at almost $12. It looks like it was maybe manipulated up to here. It looks like kind of an unnatural move. But when you have a $12 high in March, and then you go back to February of the year before that, and it's down at 12 cents, that's pretty crazy. That's a little too much volatility for me. Here we're down in the $2 to 20 or 12 cent range, so it's kind of got even crazier. And then as you keep going back, you can see how the stock has fallen from its all-time high in, let's see, January of 2000, it was at $156, and now we're sitting at $3. So long-term doesn't make me feel super confident in the stock, just because of when you're down that far overall and you've had a stock split in the past, doesn't really increase my confidence for holding for long term. Here's the 1 to 10 stock split in May of 2011. And so overall, I think the long-term potential of the stock is not for me, too risky. But I do see some potential trades for a shorter term swing trade. So I came in here beforehand just so I wouldn't have to be drawing these out while people were watching. You've got some nice supports down here, some resistances. Kind of the thing that's intriguing me the most is how well the stock has respected its moving averages. You can see here it bounced off the 50 a bunch of times, bounced off the 200, comes back up, tests the 50 from the bottom, bounces off the 200, bounced off the 50, 50, 50, come back, bounced off the 50 again. So based off of that trend, I would be looking for a bounce off of the 50 right about now, where it's doing pretty well at respecting it, bouncing off of it, and pushing higher. As you can see, we're up almost, it's up 1.5% today, which is pretty solid. And so I could definitely see if someone said, hey, I took this position because it's been respecting the 50-day moving average a lot recently, and it's down at that level right now, I would be like, okay, I totally see where you're going for that. Also, the volume recently has been pretty high, which is always good to see. So for a short-term swing trade, I'm cool with it. Another thing that's kind of popping out to me is the fact that we have a low here, you have a high, higher low, pushes up, higher low, a new high, higher low, high, higher low, and now it's come back and retested this. And if it can push up and break above this 320 mark, I like this trade overall. I don't think I'm going to be putting my money on the line for this because I'm pretty happy with the trades I'm in right now, but I could definitely see the potential in a shorter term trade. Definitely not a long-term trade. I think taking a long-term trade in the stock would kind of be financial suicide, but that's just kind of my opinion on that. When we go and look to see what the professionals have to say, oh, I'm on the wrong one. All right, so here we are on CNN. As you can see, it's up 146% year to date, which is crazy, and it's still not even at its 52-week high. Their forecast is up 96% with a high of $6. So I always like to go back and kind of see what they see here. And based off the past 180 days, I don't think that's realistic at all. We'd have to go back to, let's see, when was the last time it was at $6? Was in November, you have to go back even further actually, August of 2014 is the last time that it was at $6. So I think having it reach $6 this year is very unrealistic in my opinion. But with such a wide range, their low of 275, I think it's very interesting. Obviously, when you're looking for risk reward, when you have an incredible risk, you kind of expect it to be maybe a down 45% as the risk side of it, but down 10% is totally something that I would be okay with as a risk reward ratio. I don't exactly see it like that for a 12-month, but I'm kind of surprised at how bullish they are overall. Going to Yahoo Finance, who usually ends up being more conservative than I am, they have it as overvalued, down in the short, medium, but up in the long term. And they have their 1-year price target as $4.16. So that's kind of pretty close to its recent highs. So that's kind of more of a realistic goal for me. I would like to see in the next year it push to those recent highs. And then maybe we can start talking about pushing to $6. So totally disagree with CNN on the $6 for the high, but I can definitely see $4.15, $4.16 as being a realistic 1-year price target. And so in investing and trading, there's a million different ways you can play the market. And for Plug Power, there's some that are better and some that are not as good. Stuff that I would recommend taking a look at for Plug Power would be a short-term swing trade. Maybe this play off of the 50 or the 200-day moving average could be attractive. One of the other things that I talked about is the volatility that's happening right now with the stock. And so when volatility is high, the premiums you pay for options are also much higher than normal. And so this is not a great time to be buying options, but this is a great time to be selling options. So if you could have a cash covered call, or just a covered call overall, could be a potential trade. The problem with that is when you've seen that the stock's gone up 150% year to date, some of these options that are only protecting you 8 to 10% might not be enough, and you might have to buy back your option if the stock falls even further. So there's a million ways that you can play this. I don't think I'm going to be playing it in the future. I definitely see how you can kind of think in the future the stock may be doing better, but when you go back to the all-time chart and you just see how far it's fallen, it does not give me enough confidence to be holding in case the stock falls even further. On the 180-day chart, there's some really attractive things. I mentioned the bounces off the 50 and the 200-day moving average pretty reliably in the past. Also, the past 3 price movements up, falling, and then up again, have been really attractive in the fact that it's had higher highs every time in addition to higher lows. So every time the stock has pushed higher, it hasn't fallen back to that previous support. It has continued to make higher highs and higher lows, which is attractive for maybe a longer term swing trade. With something like Plug Power, with how volatile it is, probably would not be touching it for a long-term investment, but I could see holding it for a couple months, and the risk is up there, but the reward is also up there as well. On this channel, I talk a lot about how most of the stocks are sitting at 52-week highs, and there's not a lot of great buying opportunities. If you feel confident in Plug Power and how the charts look and how the company operates overall, this looks like a great discount to get in at a company that you trust. However, I do not trust Plug Power based off of the track record that it's had and just kind of the unrealistic expectations I feel like the company has for their revenue going forward. So as a result, I'm not going to be involved in this stock. As always, I like putting these stocks after I kind of talk about them on my watch list, so just so I can go back in a month or so and kind of see what my hunches were for the video and how they've kind of transpired on the charts. So let me know what you think about Plug Power overall. Do you like the volatility that's involved in it? There's a lot of money to be made, but there's also a lot of risk. So let me know what you think about that. Do you agree that there's probably not a great long-term trade just based off the track record it's had? Who knows? That's a great thing about investing. There's a total potential that Plug figures their stuff out and they hit $1 billion in revenue by 2024 and the stock skyrockets. And I'll be the first one to come out and say, you know what, I was wrong. But from what I've seen right now, I don't feel comfortable taking a trade in this stock. So thanks for watching this episode of Robinhood Top Stocks. If you liked the video or if you learned something, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you tomorrow on the next episode of Robinhood Top Stocks. Thanks for watching.